The abandoned atmospheric research station perched on the ridge like a forgotten monument to human ambition. Its solar panels, cracked and dulled by years of neglect, still caught enough of Haven Prime's twin suns to power the essential systems within. In the shadows of its broken walls, Kalira moved with practiced silence. Her cloak, woven from adaptive fibers that bent light around its edges, made her nearly invisible against the rocky outcropping. Only her eyes, two orbs of liquid amber that pulsed with their own bioluminescence, might have given her away, but she kept them carefully hooded as she peered through her observation scope at the human settlement below. The colony of Haven Prime sprawled across the valley like a patchwork quilt of prefabricated structures and cultivated green spaces. From her vantage point, the humans appeared as tiny figures moving with purpose between buildings, tending gardens, and gathering in the central plaza for their evening meal. She had been watching them for 3 Earth years now, documenting their behaviors, their rituals, their beautiful, smooth-skinned faces that showed every emotion with such clarity. Kalira's own face, hidden beneath layers of concealing cloth and a voice-modulating mask, was carved from different stone entirely. Her skin resembled black obsidian shot through with veins of deep purple, jagged and crystalline where it caught the light. Her people, the Viridians, had been blessed with incredible intellect and strength, but cursed with appearances that had historically struck fear into the hearts of most species they encountered. She touched the data pad containing her research. Thousands of hours of observations translated into the most comprehensive study of human social behavior ever compiled by her species. The Viridian Council would be fascinated by her findings about human emotional complexity, their capacity for both cooperation and conflict, their remarkable adaptability. But they would never understand why she had spent so long among them, why she had grown to care. The evening ritual was beginning below. Families emerged from their dwellings, children ran between the buildings, and couples walked hand in hand toward the community center. Kalira felt the familiar ache in her chest, a longing she had no name for in her own language. Humans made connection look so effortless, so natural. They touched each other without fear, smiled without reservation, loved without hiding. A movement in the outer cultivation zones caught her attention. She adjusted her scope and focused on a lone figure working among the experimental crop plots, a human male with sun-weathered skin and gentle movements as he tended to the plants. Unlike the others who worked in groups, this one seemed to prefer solitude. She had noticed him before, always working at the colony's edges, speaking to his plants in soft tones that her enhanced hearing could just barely detect. His name was Jonas Thorne, according to the colony records she had carefully accessed, a botanist specializing in terraforming agriculture. 32 Earth years old, no family unit, no romantic pairing that she had observed. Like her, he seemed to exist on the periphery of his society. As she watched, Jonas straightened from his work and looked up toward the ridge where she hid. For one heart-stopping moment, their eyes seemed to meet across the distance, but it was impossible. Her position was perfectly concealed, and the evening light would make the rocky slope appear empty to human vision. Still, something in his gaze made her amber eyes flare brighter, and she quickly ducked deeper into the shadows, her pulse racing with a mixture of fear and something else entirely. Something that felt dangerously like hope. The storm struck Haven Prime with unprecedented fury, turning the usually calm evening into a chaos of howling winds and torrential rain. From her shelter in the research station, Kalira watched the lightning illuminate the valley in stark, violent flashes. The humans had all retreated to their reinforced buildings, but she felt restless, drawn by her scientific curiosity to collect atmospheric readings during such an unusual weather event. Wrapping her adaptive cloak tighter around her frame, she ventured out into the tempest with her instruments. The wind whipped at her concealing garments, and more than once she had to steady herself against the rocky outcroppings as she made her way down the treacherous slope toward a better vantage point. She was focused on calibrating her equipment when the ground beneath her feet suddenly gave way. The saturated earth, destabilized by the pounding rain, collapsed in a thunderous roar. Kalira felt herself tumbling down the muddy slope, her instruments scattered, sharp stones tearing at her cloak. A particularly large boulder struck her temple, and darkness claimed her before she could cry out. Jonas had been securing his greenhouse when he heard the rumble of the landslide echoing across the valley. As soon as the storm passed, he grabbed his emergency kit and headed out to assess the damage to the outer cultivation zones. He was picking his way carefully through the debris field when a flash of unusual color caught his eye. Purple fabric, definitely not standard colony issue, partially buried beneath fallen rocks. His heart racing, he began digging frantically. What he uncovered made him freeze in amazement rather than fear. The being beneath the debris was clearly not human, but she was undeniably beautiful in her alienness. Her skin was like living obsidian, dark and crystalline with veins of deep purple that seemed to pulse with their own light. Her face, angular and sharp-featured, was feminine in its structure despite its otherworldly appearance. Carefully, Jonas checked for injuries. A gash on her temple was bleeding a fluid that glowed faintly silver in the dim light. Her breathing was shallow but steady. Without hesitation, he gathered her into his arms. She was surprisingly light despite her solid appearance, and carried her back to his botanical station. He had basic medical training, enough to clean and dress wounds. As he worked, he found himself studying her features with scientific fascination rather than fear. Her bone structure was elegant, her skin warm to the touch despite its mineral appearance. When he accidentally brushed against her eyelids, they fluttered, revealing eyes that blazed like captured starlight. Kalira awoke to unfamiliar surroundings and the gentle touch of careful hands. Panic shot through her as she realized her concealing mask and hood had been displaced. She tried to scramble away, pressing herself against the wall of what appeared to be a small laboratory filled with plants and scientific equipment. "Hey, it's okay," a soft voice said. "You're safe. I'm Jonas. I found you after the landslide." She turned toward the voice and saw him clearly for the first time. Medium height, with kind brown eyes and prematurely gray hair that spoke of long hours under harsh suns. His face showed concern, not horror, not disgust, just concern. "You're hurt," she managed to say, her voice carrying the melodic undertones of her species even without her translator. I'm hurt. You helped me." Jonas smiled, and the warmth in that expression made something flutter in her chest. "You speak English beautifully. What's your name?" "Kalira," she whispered, then immediately regretted it. She had never told her real name to a human before. "Kalira," he repeated, pronouncing each syllable with care. "That's beautiful. Like you." The words hung between them, simple and sincere. Kalira felt her bioluminescent eyes flare brighter, betraying her emotional response. Instead of being alarmed, Jonas leaned forward with obvious fascination. "Your eyes," he said softly. "They're incredible. Like liquid amber with their own light source. Are you Viridian?" She nodded, shocked that he knew her species name without fear coloring his voice. "I've read about your people in the xenobiology journals. Your contributions to terraforming science are legendary." He paused, studying her face. "What are you doing here alone?" For the first time in 3 years, Kalira found herself wanting to answer honestly. There was something in Jonas's demeanor, the way he looked at her like she was a marvel rather than a monster, that made her walls begin to crumble. "I've been studying," she admitted. "Learning about humans. You're not what we expected." Jonas laughed, a warm sound that filled the small space. "I could say the same about you. Would you like some tea? You should rest a bit more before you go anywhere." As he bustled around preparing refreshments, talking easily about his plants and his research, Kalira felt something she had thought impossible. She felt normal. For the first time in her life, she felt like she belonged somewhere. 3 weeks had passed since the landslide, and Kalira found herself returning to Jonas's botanical station every few days under the pretense of checking her healing injuries. In truth, the gash on her temple had sealed within days. Viridian physiology was remarkably resilient. But Jonas seemed to understand her real reason for visiting without calling attention to it. Their conversations had evolved from cautious exchanges to deep discussions about science, philosophy, and the nature of consciousness across species. Kalira discovered that Jonas possessed not only extensive knowledge of xenobiology, but also a poet's soul that found beauty in the microscopic details of plant cellular structures and the grand patterns of ecosystem development. "Look at this," Jonas said, adjusting the microscope they now shared during her visits. The way the chloroplasts arranged themselves in the modified earth corn were developing. It's like they're dancing. Kalira leaned in to peer through the eyepiece, acutely aware of Jonas's proximity. His hand steadied the instrument near hers, and when their fingers accidentally brushed, she felt a jolt of sensation that had nothing to do with her natural bioelectricity. Her skin, she had learned, was incredibly sensitive to touch, a trait that had always made her feel more isolated from others of her kind, who rarely engaged in casual physical contact. "You're right," she murmured, studying the cellular structures. In Viridian agricultural science, we call this phenomenon Kelterra, the harmony of purpose. But I've never seen it expressed so beautifully in earth-based plants. Kelterra, Jonas repeated, his voice savoring the alien syllables. "Your language is musical. Will you teach me more?" Over the following days, their lessons became a cherished ritual. Jonas proved to be an eager student of Viridian linguistic structures, while Kalira found herself sharing not just words but concepts that had no human equivalent. The intimacy of language exchange created a bridge between their worlds that she had never imagined possible. It was during one of these sessions that Jonas first asked about her concealing cloak. "You don't need to hide from me," he said gently as she automatically pulled her hood up when a delivery drone passed overhead. "I mean, I understand why you might want to, but I think you're magnificent." Kalira's amber eyes flared with surprise and something deeper. Magnificent. The word felt foreign applied to herself. "Your skin catches the light like a living gemstone. The way your eyes brighten when you're excited about something. It's like watching stars being born." Jonas reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he carefully pushed back her hood, revealing the full glory of her crystalline features. "The first time I saw you, even unconscious and injured, my first thought wasn't fear. It was wonder." Her breath caught. No one had ever described her appearance with such reverence. Among her own people, physical beauty was rarely discussed. It was intellect and achievement that mattered. But the way Jonas looked at her, with appreciation and something that looked remarkably like desire, made her feel truly seen for the first time. "My people," she said hesitantly, "we've always been told that other species find us frightening. Primitive brain responses to our predatory features." Jonas cupped her face gently, his thumb tracing the elegant line of her cheekbone. "Maybe some do, but beauty isn't universal, it's personal. And personally, I find you breathtaking." The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility. Kalira felt her skin warm and brighten under his touch, her natural luminescence responding to her emotional state. Jonas's eyes widened in fascination. "Does it always do that?" he asked softly. "Only when I'm—" She paused, searching for the right word. "Affected, emotionally stimulated. Like now." Like now. Their first kiss was tentative, exploratory. Jonas's lips were softer than she had imagined, warm and gentle against her cooler, mineral-textured mouth. The sensation sent cascades of light racing beneath her skin, turning her into a living constellation. When they broke apart, both were breathing heavily. "That was," Jonas began. "Kelterra," Kalira finished, her voice barely above a whisper. As the days continued, their connection deepened beyond the physical attraction that had surprised them both. They worked side by side in perfect synchronization, Jonas teaching her the patience required for nurturing growing things, while she helped him understand the quantum-level processes that govern plant development. Their complementary knowledge created breakthroughs in both their research that neither could have achieved alone. In the evenings, they would sit outside Jonas's station watching Haven Prime's twin moons rise over the valley. Kalira had stopped returning to her lonely observation post, instead spending her nights on Jonas's small sofa, wrapped in blankets that smelled like him and the various herbs he cultivated. "I never thought," she said one evening as they watched meteor shower paint the sky, "that connection could feel so effortless." Jonas took her hand, marveling as always at the way her skin seemed to pulse with inner light at his touch. Maybe that's what love is supposed to feel like. Not effortless as in easy, but effortless as in right. The word love hung between them, unacknowledged but not unfelt. They weren't ready to name what was growing between them, but both could feel its presence like a third heartbeat in the quiet space they had created together. 2 months into their friendship, Kalira made a decision that felt like tearing herself in half. She would have to leave Haven Prime. Her extended silence had undoubtedly been noticed by the Viridian Council. Soon they would send a ship to investigate. The thought of bringing scrutiny and possible danger to Jonas and his peaceful colony was unbearable. She spent what she intended to be their final evening together, helping him transplant seedlings in his greenhouse, memorizing every moment. The way he hummed softly while he worked, the careful precision of his hands as he handled delicate root systems, the smile that lit his face whenever he discovered something new about plant behavior. "I have to tell you something," she began as they cleaned their tools in comfortable silence. Jonas looked up from washing soil from his hands, immediately sensing the gravity in her tone. "What is it?" "I have to leave Haven Prime. Tomorrow, probably. My people, they'll be looking for me soon." The small hand towel Jonas had been holding dropped to the floor. "Leave? But why? Are you in danger?" "No, She struggled to find words that wouldn't sound like abandonment. "I've been here too long. I was supposed to observe and report back, not—" She gestured helplessly between them. "Not make connections," Jonas finished, his voice hollow. "Not fall in." She stopped herself before the word could escape, but Jonas heard it anyway. "Kalira." He moved closer, and she could see her own pain reflected in his brown eyes. "Don't go." The simple plea nearly undid her resolve. "I have to. For your safety, for the colony's safety. If my people think I've been compromised." "Have you been?" The question was barely a whisper, but it carried enormous weight. Kalira looked into Jonas's face, seeing hope and fear warring there, and realized she was tired of hiding from the truth. "Yes," she whispered back. "Completely." Jonas closed the distance between them, pulling her into his arms with desperate tenderness. They held each other in the greenhouse surrounded by growing things and the scent of rich earth, both trying to memorize the feeling of this moment. "Then don't leave," Jonas said against her hair. "Stay with me. Choose this. Choose us." "Jonas, you don't understand what you're asking." "I understand perfectly." He pulled back to look at her, his hands framing her luminescent face. "I understand that I've spent my whole life feeling like I was waiting for something I couldn't name. I understand that you've made me realize that something was you." Kalira felt her bioluminescence flare brighter than ever before, her emotional control completely shattered by his words. "I understand," Jonas continued, "that I'm falling in love with you, and I hope, you might be falling in love with me too." The words hit her like a physical force. Love. The concept she had studied in humans, but never thought she could experience herself. The emotion that made humans capable of both incredible creation and terrible destruction. "I am," she admitted, her voice breaking. "I am falling in love with you, and it terrifies me." "It terrifies me too," Jonas said with a shaky laugh. "I've never been in love with anyone, let alone someone from another species. I don't know how to navigate interspecies relationships, or whether we're even biologically compatible for long-term partnership. But I know I want to find out." He took her hands in his, and she could feel his pulse racing through his skin. "Kalira, He said formally, as if he were conducting a scientific experiment. Would you want to go to dinner with me sometime? A real date, I mean. With candles and good food, and me telling you terrible jokes until you laugh so hard your eyes flash like lightning. The question was so perfectly, endearingly human that Kalira found herself laughing despite her tears. A date. A date. Tomorrow night, if you'll stay. I'll cook for you. I make an excellent pasta primavera, and I have a bottle of Terran wine I've been saving for a special occasion. And after dinner. Jonas's cheeks flushed pink, but he held her gaze steadily. After dinner, whatever feels right. I just want to be with you, Kalira. I want to wake up tomorrow knowing you'll still be here. Standing in the greenhouse with dirt under her fingernails, and this wonderful, brave human looking at her like she was the most precious thing in the universe, Kalira felt something shift inside her. Fear would always be part of loving someone, but perhaps courage could be part of it too. Yes, she said, her voice growing stronger with each word. Yes, I want to go to dinner with you. Yes, I want to stay. Yes to all of it. Jonas's smile was radiant as he lifted her off the ground and spun her around, both of them laughing like the children they had never really been allowed to be. When he set her down, they were both still smiling, but the air between them had changed, charged with new possibility. Tomorrow night, Jonas said, pressing his forehead to hers. Tomorrow night, she agreed, and for the first time in her life, tomorrow felt like a promise instead of a threat.
6 months had passed since that first dinner date, and Kalira barely recognized the person she had become. The fearful observer hiding in shadows had been replaced by a woman who walked openly through Haven Prime streets. Her crystalline features no longer concealed. The colonists had needed time to adjust, but Jonas's quiet acceptance and her own gentle demeanor had gradually won them over. Children, especially, seemed fascinated by her glowing eyes and the way her skin sparkled. In sunlight, their relationship had deepened into something that transcended the initial wonder and attraction. They had learned to navigate the practical challenges of interspecies romance, the different sleep cycles, dietary needs, and cultural expectations that could have driven them apart. Instead, these differences had become sources of discovery and delight. In the privacy of Jonas's expanded living quarters, they had explored the profound intimacy possible between their species. Kalira's touch-sensitive skin made every caress a symphony of sensation, while Jonas's patient, thorough approach to everything from botanical research to lovemaking had taught her that pleasure could be both gentle and overwhelming. "You're glowing again," Jonas murmured, tracing patterns across her luminescent skin as they lay tangled together in their shared bed, dawn light filtering through the windows. "I'm always glowing," Kalira replied, stretching luxuriously against him. Her skin's radiance had intensified over the months, responding to her increased emotional openness and the constant joy she felt in Jonas's presence. "Brighter then. Like you're powered by happiness. Maybe I am." She turned in his arms to face him, marveling as she did every morning at waking up beside this man who had changed everything. "Have I told you lately that I love you?" "Only every day." Jonas pressed a kiss to her forehead, then each of her eyelids, a morning ritual that never failed to make her inner light pulse with contentment. "But I never get tired of hearing it." Their peaceful morning was interrupted by an urgent chiming from Kalira's communication device, the first time it had activated in over a year. Both of them froze as the alien harmonics filled the room. "It's my people," Kalira said, her voice tight with sudden anxiety. "They're here." The Viridian ship descended from orbit like a dark jewel against Haven Prime's blue sky, its biomechanical hull pulsing with the same rhythmic light patterns that marked Kalira's emotional states. The entire colony gathered to watch its landing, Jonas standing protectively close to Kalira as they waited at the designated landing site. 3 Viridians emerged from the ship, their imposing forms making even Kalira look delicate by comparison. The lead figure, bearing the ceremonial scarification of a high scholar, approached with measured steps. "Scholar Kalira," the high scholar spoke in their musical language, "you have been absent from your duties, far beyond acceptable parameters. The council requires your immediate return." Kalira stepped forward, Jonas's hand steady at her back. "High Scholar Vithan, I request permission to speak before the council regarding my extended research mission. Your research was completed months ago. This prolonged contact with humans has clearly compromised your objectivity." Vithan's glowing eyes fixed on Jonas with obvious disapproval. "End this inappropriate attachment and return to your obligations." "No." The single word rang out with such quiet conviction that even the other Viridians seemed surprised. Kalira felt Jonas's pride in her radiating through their connection. "I will not end my relationship with Jonas Thorne, and I will not abandon my life here on Haven Prime. If the council wishes to hear my research findings, they may send representatives here. But I am not leaving. You would choose exile over duty? Choose this alien over your own species?" Kalira looked back at Jonas, seeing love and support in his eyes, then turned to address not just Vithan, but the gathered crowd of both humans and Viridians. "I choose love over fear," she said clearly. "I choose connection over isolation. I choose the life I've built here with the man who saw beauty where others saw only strangeness." Jonas stepped forward, taking her hand. "And I choose her," he said simply, "for as long as you have me, in whatever form our relationship needs to take." The standoff continued for several tense moments before Vithan made a sound that might have been amusement. "Your research findings had better be extraordinary, Scholar Kalira, to justify this breach of protocol." "They are," she replied confidently. "And they're not complete yet? I've discovered that humans and Viridians are more compatible than we ever imagined, not just intellectually, but emotionally and even physically. This research could revolutionize interspecies relations across the galaxy." 3 days later, Haven Prime hosted its first interspecies commitment ceremony. The ritual blended human and Viridian traditions, with Jonas speaking his vows in carefully learned Viridian, while Kalira responded in English. As they exchanged rings, Jonas's a simple band of Terran gold, Kalira's a circlet of crystallized light from her homeworld. Her bioluminescence painted everything around them in shifting patterns of joy. "I love you," Jonas said as they sealed their union with a kiss that made Kalira's skin flare so brightly that several guests had to shield their eyes. "Kael Tara," she whispered back, harmony of purpose, perfect understanding, two beings becoming something greater together. The Viridian delegation departed the next day, taking with them Kalira's comprehensive research and a new understanding of love's power to bridge any gap. High Scholar Vithan's final words to Kalira were unexpectedly warm. Perhaps some compromises lead not to weakness, but to strength. As they watched the ship disappear into the star-scattered sky, Jonas pulled Kalira close, both of them amazed by how far they had traveled from that first moment when she had been too afraid to show her face. "No regrets?" Jonas asked. Kalira turned in his arms, her skin glowing with the steady light of absolute certainty. "How could I regret choosing love?" Above them, Haven Prime's twin moons rose over a world where two unlikely hearts had found their perfect match, proving that beauty truly was in the eye of the beholder, and that love has always found a way.